Shalom Uvracha. So this is what happened. They called and they told me that they were cleaning for Pesach, and in the drawer they found an envelope with money in it. Now, they do occasionally put money in an envelope and put it in the drawer to give to tzedakah, but they don't remember this at all. And maybe it was money that is put away for themselves. So they have this big question. Is it tzedakah money, or can they take it for themselves? So what do we do about that? Well, first of all, we should know that when it comes to tzedakah, a person needs to be very, very careful. The Shulchan Aruch in Yoreh De'ah, in Siman Resh Mem Zayin, where he gives an introduction to the laws of tzedakah, actually says that a person needs to be very, extremely careful about giving tzedakah, because, God forbid, it can lead to people dying, the death of the poor people. And he quotes there a story from the Gemara in Masechet Ta'anit, page 21, about a rabbi called Nachum Ish Gamzu. Nachum Ish Gamzu, there are many stories about him in the Gemara, how he got his name, Nachum, the man who always said, this is also for the good. But the Gemara there tells a story about it. At a certain point in his life, he was very rich. And he was once traveling with 3 donkeys filled with all types of goods. And as he got to where he was going, a poor person came and said, please, Rebbe, can you give me some charity? And Nachum smiled and said, of course, just wait a moment till I unload the donkeys and then I'll take care of you. But unfortunately, until he'd finished unloading the donkeys and put everything away, he came back to find that the poor man had died of hunger in the meantime. Nachum Ish Gamzu broke down into tears and took upon himself all types of suffering and pain. And from that, the Gemara and the Shulchan Aruch rule that a person should always be very careful to give charity and to give it speedily and when they say they'll give it, because it could, God forbid, lead to tragedy. But what should we do in this case? Very nice. I heard your story. Next time I'll be careful. But this time, I opened the drawer, I found the envelope, I've got the money, and I just don't remember. Is it tzedakah money or not? 50-50. Who knows? Well, there's a verse in the book of Vayikra, in chapter 19 of Vayikra, that says, La'ani v'lager ta'azov otam. To the poor person and the stranger, ta'azov otam. Leave them to them. And it's talking about the gifts to the poor, the corner of the field, the dropped sheaves, the forgotten leket, shikacha, and peah, 3 agricultural gifts that are given to the poor people at the time of the harvest. The Gemara learns from this word, ta'azov otam, leave them to them. It could have used a much simpler word, give them to them. They're theirs. What's this idea, ta'azov otam? Relinquish them to them. From that, the Gemara learns that even when a person's in doubt as to whether these agricultural gifts belong to the poor person or not, they should be freed and given to the poor person. Ta'azov otam. There's another verse from the book of Tehillim in chapter 82 in Tehillim where it says, Ani varash hitzdiku. You should make righteous the poor and the destitute. The Gemara in the Masechet Chulin learns from that to make them righteous as if there was some type of argument and they have to be hitzdiku. We have to find them righteous. From here too, the Gemara learns that in a case of doubt, where there's an argument, the gifts to the poor belong to the poor person. And the Mishnah in Masechet Peah, chapter 4, actually rules exactly like that. Safek leket leket. If a person's in doubt about the gleanings that belong to the poor person, they are left to the poor person. So it would seem that that would solve our problem here. But it's not so simple. Why? Because all that is true with the gifts to the poor of agriculture. But when it comes to money, perhaps we should use another rule. We have a rule in monetary arguments that hamotzi michavero alav raya. If I come to take something from someone else, that is, I have an argument whether certain monies belong to me or them, then the person who is in possession is assumed to be the owner. And the person who wants to get given to them what's in another person's possession has to bring a proof. In this case, the possession is in the hands of the person who's holding the envelope. We are asking, does it belong to the poor people? If the poor people want it, they would have to bring a proof that it's theirs, but they can't I can't bring a proof that it's mine, but at least I'm in possession. But they can't bring a proof that it belongs to the poor people. Therefore, we would apply our rule, which is the possession is part of an assumption of ownership, and it cannot be taken from me without a clear proof. In that case, it would seem that the money should stay with the person who owns the envelope, who found it in their drawer. On the other hand, the Mordechai, one of the Rishonim, says that we're not in doubt here about the money. What we're in doubt is about whether a person made a vow to give it to charity or not. What we're in doubt about did the person say, I will give this money to charity, this money belongs to charity. When we have doubts about a religious obligation, about a vow, about a promise we made to give charity, then we have a different rule, and that is in Isurim L'Chumra, that when it comes to fulfilling our religious obligations, we are strict. In such a case, if we don't know, did he fulfill his obligation of making a vow to charity or not, we would say that the scales tip the other way, and he should have to give the money to charity. So which rule do we use here? The laws of monetary possession or the laws of fulfilling our religious obligations? The Shulchan Aruch in the laws of Staka, Yoredea in Reish Nun Tet, law number 5, actually rules like this, that someone who has in their hand money and they're in doubt whether that money belongs to charity or not, is obligated to give them to charity. So that solves all our problems, but not so quickly. Because the Vilna Gaon, the Gra, in his comments on the Shulchan Aruch, argues with the Shulchan Aruch. And he says no, that rule is based on the laws of agricultural gifts, where we said, Safek leket leket, Safek shichacha shichacha, that when in doubt we have to give. But this is a monetary law. And in such a case, says the Vilna Gaon, the money should stay with the person who found it, because possession is part of an assumption of ownership. So what do we do in the case where we have an argument between the Shulchan Aruch and the Vilna Gaon? Well, most Latter-day rabbis here rule like the Shulchan Aruch, that a person who finds money in their possession and doesn't know if it belongs to charity or not should give it to charity, because of the opinions we said. I also believe that we should do everything we can to encourage giving charity, and even the Vilna Gaon here would not find any problem in giving the money to charity. He would be very happy to increase giving charity. So in this case, I ruled that the person should give it to charity. Please God, they'll learn from that in the future to be more careful, to make sure that when we have money for charity, we give it straight away, immediately, so we can do the good that we feel in our heart will come into actuality in the world. Shalom uvracha.